The silence of space was absolute, broken only by the deep hum of the Zenith 99's engines, the reconnaissance ship piloted by John Garcia. He hovered just above the surface of Kepler 442b, a planet so similar to Earth that it had already become a prime target for human colonization. The atmosphere was dense, bluish, filled with murky mists that swirled like spectres. The alien vegetation pulsed with a greenish glow, reacting to the heat of the ship's thrusters. That was when he saw her, lying in the tall vegetation. Her slender body trembled slightly. Her skin was a pale lilac, subtly glowing as if absorbing the surrounding light. Long silver hair clung to her sweaty, wounded face, but what truly caught his attention was what she was wearing. A minimal, almost symbolic fabric that barely covered her exotic curves. John muttered. Without hesitation, he landed the ship immediately, the engines releasing a deep thud as they touched the ground. He jumped out, his armor sensors flashing warnings as he approached. The alien woman was struggling to breathe, her chest rising and falling in an unstable rhythm. Wounds covered her abdomen and thighs, her greenish blood stark against her lilac skin. John knelt beside her, feeling the warmth radiating from her like an electric field. She opened her eyes, feline and golden, staring straight at him. "You are not one of them," she whispered, her voice hoarse. He didn't even think. He scooped her into his arms and ran back to the ship. Her body was warm, her skin soft against his reinforced suit as he held her. He noticed her scent. Sweet, intoxicating, almost hypnotic. Hours later, inside the Zenith 99, the cabin was filled with the rich aroma of spices as John cooked. The ship's small stove sizzled, spreading the scent of grilled synthetic meat. Behind him, a faint sigh caught his attention. She was awake. John turned and activated his universal translator. The device blinked a few times before a soft, feminine voice came through the speaker. "Who are you, handsome?" He raised an eyebrow. Handsome? That was new. John Garcia, astronaut, explorer, colonizer, and you? She slowly sat up, still naked beneath the metallic sheets of the ship's bed. Her gaze travelled over him, filled with unmistakable interest. "My name is Katia. I am an elder of the Kiji." John frowned. "Elder, you look young. How old are you?" "In your counting," she smiled, leaning forward, "I am 43 of your years." John blinked. He was 22. The age difference was real, but she didn't look like an elder at all. Katia touched his chest, her cool fingers tracing the fabric of his shirt. "You saved me at a bad time, John Garcia," she murmured, her lips curving into a teasing smile. A shiver ran down John's spine. "Why?" he asked, trailing his fingers down his arm, tilting his head. Her golden eyes gleamed. "Because I am in my mating cycle, and according to Kiji tradition, the warrior who saves an elder must satisfy her." John's breath hitched for a second. The night on Kepler 442b was just beginning. John blinked, trying to process Katia's words. Her voice was soft, but it carried a dangerous promise. The golden glow of her eyes locked onto his like an inescapable gravitational pull. The warrior who saves an elder must satisfy her. He licked his lips, feeling the heat of the moment intensify. Inside the small cabin of the Zenith 99, the artificial gravity kept the environment stable, but something inside him felt off balance. "So it's like a ritual?" He tried to keep his voice steady, but Katia's intense gaze was disarming. She smirked, a feline, provocative smile. "Call it what you want, but my people's biology doesn't wait for ceremonies. The cycle has already begun. And you—" Her eyes trailed over his body, analyzing every detail with a predatory intensity. "Seems strong enough to handle it?" John felt heat rising in his chest. He wasn't naive. He knew when someone was playing hard, and Katia was playing very hard. But he didn't back down. "Well, I guess I have a duty to fulfill," he said. She laughed, a deep, vibrant sound, and before John could say another word, Katia pulled him closer. The shock of their bodies colliding was electric. Her cold skin against the heat of his sent an instant shiver down his spine. Her exotic scent was intoxicating, a mix of sweet access and something undefinable, something alien, something addictive. Their lips met, and the response was immediate. He felt the pressure of her soft lips and returned it with intensity. Her hands explored his shoulders, sliding over his tense muscles as if she were assessing his strength. "You kiss differently," she murmured, her lips barely an inch from his. "That's because I'm human. I like it." The heat intensified, desire spreading like an uncontrollable wildfire inside the ship. John pulled her closer, feeling her cold skin warm under his hands. Every touch was a discovery, every movement a challenge. But then an alarm blared from the control panel. "Intruders detected. Critical proximity." John sucked in a breath, his astronaut instincts kicking in. Katia let out a low growl, her golden eyes narrowing. "They found me." John sprinted to the command panel, his fingers gliding over the holographic control. Sensors activated. Full scan initiated. Outside, 3 unknown ships hovered in the darkness, their angular, aggressive silhouettes illuminated by pulsing blue lights. "Kianos," Katia hissed, her expression darkening. John frowned. "The hell are those?" She grabbed a small, sharp blade strapped to her thigh and growled, "The traitors of my people." Tension spiked instantly. The moment of intimacy was crushed by imminent danger. John cracked his fingers, activating the Zenith 99's defense systems. If they want to fight, they're going to have to work for it. Katia smirked, still breathless, but with a predatory gleam in her eyes. "I knew you were a warrior." The ship's lights flickered. The engines roared outside. The Kianos were closing in, and John Garcia was ready for all of it. The Zenith 99 trembled as the first blast hit. Streaks of blue energy cut through the darkness, slamming into the ship's shields with a deafening impact. The cabin lights flickered, casting dancing shadows over John and Katia. "Son of a..." John growled, gripping the ship's controls. "They're not messing around." Katia stepped closer, her golden eyes burning with fury. "They want to capture me. They want to take me back, erase my lineage, and wipe my name from Kiji history." John glanced at her for a second. Even covered in wounds, she radiated strength. "Then we make sure that doesn't happen." He yanked the throttle, and the Zenith 99 roared to life. The engines fired at full power, and the ship shot sideways, dodging another plasma beam. The stars blurred around them as he twisted the ship into an impossible maneuver. "Hold on tight." Katia gripped the back of his seat as John slammed the counterattack button. Energy missiles blasted from the ship's side cannons, streaking across the sky like meteors. One of the enemy ships tried to evade, but the explosion consumed its fuselage in a swirling ball of blue fire. One down. John grinned, but his control panel flashed red. The 2 remaining ships split apart, flanking him. John clenched his teeth. "If I stay on the defensive, I'm screwed. I need to flip the game." "Katia, how do these damn ships work?" She gritted her teeth, pulling up the holographic console. "They have a heat-sensitive core. If we overheat their engines, their systems will shut down." John smirked. "Then let's give them one hell of a heat wave." He pushed the Zenith 99's engines to the limit, making the ship streak between the Kianos at an impossible speed. The friction created a trail of blazing plasma, a curtain of fire that blinded the enemy sensors. "Now!" Katia shouted. John spun the ship suddenly and fired everything he had. The beam struck the traitor reactors, and their hulls shattered like glass. Silence swallowed space. The remains of the Keanos floated, illuminated by the pulsating lights of Kepler 442b below them. John took a deep breath, his body trembling with adrenaline. They won. He turned to Katia, who was still panting, her silver hair sticking to her sweaty skin. Her gaze was pure fire. "You have no idea how exciting that was," she murmured, a wild smile forming on her lips. John chuckled, exhausted. "I could say the same." She moved closer, her eyes glowing under the ship's soft light. "You saved me twice today, John Garcia. I think that earns me a reward, doesn't it?" Katia smirked, running her cool hands along the back of his neck. "You want to know what a KG warrior's reward is?" John didn't need to answer. Her lips met his again, but this time there was no urgency, only desire. "But they haven't won the war yet," Katia murmured against his lips. John smirked, cupping her face firmly. "Then let's end this, blank, once and for all." Kepler 442b was waiting. The Zenith 99 descended like a comet, slicing through the bluish clouds and plunging into the luminescent forests. The destination, the great Kiji Temple, a colossus of black stone and towering spires, where the traitor who tried to kill Katia now ruled with an iron fist. Inside, thousands of Kiji, temple, a colossus of black stone and towering spires, where the traitor who tried to kill Katia now ruled with an iron fist. Inside, thousands of Kiji waited, some oppressed, some complicit. Whatever was about to happen, it was happening now. Katia gripped John's shoulder before stepping off the ship. "The fate of my people depends on us." John held her chin, making her look at him. "Then let's make sure this story has a happy ending." She smiled, golden eyes glowing with admiration. The Kiji guards weren't expecting a direct attack when Katia and John stormed into the main hall, armed with alien blades and blasters. Chaos erupted. "Traitors to my people!" Katia roared, her voice echoing like thunder. "You bowed to fear, but today you bow before the true elder." The hall trembled with war cries. The Kiji loyal to Katia emerged from the shadows, armed and ready to fight. John fired at the traitor soldiers, dodging at the last second as a laser beam sliced through the air beside him. "Son of a blank! That was close," he cursed, rolling across the floor and taking down two enemies at once. Katia moved through her enemies like a sill-storm. Her blades flashed under the temple lights, slicing through resistance as if it were paper. From the throne, the traitor watched everything. His eyes narrowed with fury. "You should be dead," he growled. Katia ascended the steps, her gaze locked onto him. "And you should have been a leader, not a coward." The fight was swift. He tried to resist, but Katia was a trained warrior, fueled by rage. With a final strike, she brought him down, forcing him to the floor before everyone. John stepped forward, blaster in hand. "Looks like your reign is over." Katia lifted her gaze to her people. No more betrayal, no more fear. The true Kiji people rise today. The hall erupted in cheers. The war was over. Hours later, the great temple was alive with celebration. The Kiji rejoiced in their freedom, and Katia was officially recognized as the supreme elder. John sat on the edge of a balcony, gazing at the stars while sipping something that tasted a lot like alien whiskey. Katia approached, her loose hair flowing in the wind, her lilac skin glowing under the twin moons of Kepler. "You saved my people, John Garcia." He chuckled, swirling the drink in his hand. "And you saved my heart." She arched an amused eyebrow. "That was a little cheesy." "Yeah, maybe," he shrugged, "but it's true." Katia sat beside him, her golden eyes softening. "You could stay, you know. My people need a warrior by the elder's side." John looked out at the alien horizon. Space still called to him, but this planet had something no other did. Katia. He turned to her, cupping her face in his hands. "I think I just found a home." And then he kissed her, feeling the warmth of the future ignite between them. The war was over, but their story was only just beginning.